This is JacksportsTV.com. My name is Damian Bell. This is Mr. Daryl Heavey, our resident golf expert. He can talk golf like no one else can talk golf. And it's one thing for me to tell you, but it's another thing to hear it from him. And you can tune in anywhere else. There are umpteen places where you could tune in and listen about golf and hear about one guy. And it'll leave you thinking golf is about one guy. That's not going to happen right here. Mr. Heavey is going to tell you about 3 things that the real golf pro is thinking about.
Thank you, Damien. Actually, this week was a really great story. In Alabama, they had an amateur in the Amateur State Championship. He's 17 years old, and he shot a 57. The record for a long time on the regular tour has been 59. So what the boy accomplished is pretty awesome. On top of that, this last weekend, there was a good tournament at the Greenbrier Open. It's a new inaugural event. They had all the big studs were there except for Tiger. Unfortunately, he wasn't there because he was making money somewhere else. But they had a gentleman named Eric Compton, and I want to give him a shout out because he's a UGA alum. He's from Georgia, so go Dogs. Eric Compton is a great story because when he was 12 years old, he actually had a heart transplant, and his life was basically over at that time. And he went on, got his tour card, beat the system for a long time, played around, hacked around, did this, and in 2 years ago, I believe it was, he had a second transplant. So he's working on his 3rd heart, and he is still probably in the top 100 on the PGA Tour. He fell apart on Sunday, but Friday, Saturday, and Thursday for the first round, he lit up some numbers that were above the rest of the field that he was smoking everybody. And he ended up that he shot like a 77 on Sunday, and you never heard from him again. But that's good stuff for the weekend outside of the Tiger routine.
Well, you know what? I got to take you to task on one. That first one, the 17-year-old with the super low score in golf. That's a huge achievement for anybody's age. I mean, I cheat my score just to shoot that low for the day and just tell somebody I did it. But I tell you what, as much as I love sports and respect the tradition of golf and everything that goes with it, I think golf is the absolute worst sport for any child to play. Anybody under 19 years old, it's like the worst sport to deal with because to succeed in golf, you've got to be so disciplined, so rigid, so mentally there. And that's just something that, children don't have in them. When you can flash back and that unnamed person that everybody think golf is all about started playing at 3 years old and building his game and his father driving him to the point where you block out the whole world and sink that putt and that's all that matters. It kind of messes you up to where you don't really grow up. You're great at the game, but as a person, you're just torn. And that's a lot of his problem right now. But golf is not about him right now. But when you look at that guy in Alabama, Michelle Wee, Natalie Golbus, people that actually look like they've got lives outside of the sport around them, when you throw that sport around them, it's like they're introverts. And the one thing I've learned about golf pros is there's some wild men out there. I mean, they may look all proper on the course with the polo shirts and the neat little clothes, but there's some wild men. Can't wait to party after they finish on the links. Can't wait to toss back a drink or two after focusing on that 20-foot putt on the uneven greens. Or that guy that can't wait to go chase some women around after dealing with 30-mile-an-hour winds trying to hit that little white ball. And for kid to have to get that rigid and respected, I think it's the worst form. What's your opinion?
I have to disagree with you, unfortunately. It is a big responsibility and a lot to keep up with because there's a lot to it. It's more than just, it's between your ears. There's a lot of mental part of the game, and that is very strong to put on a young child, but they're so impressionable at that age that they learn from the beginning to do it right. So they grow from that point, and even at that age, they're not paying attention to all the pressures and all the things involved with golf. They just simply take it for what it's worth. They do it. If you say, go make that putt, they go make that putt. They don't look at it and try to analyze it and figure out the slope of the green and how long it is and how much the wind's blowing. They just go up there and look at the hole and they say, hey, I can make that putt. Boom, they make it. So I disagree a little bit. Yeah, it's a lot of responsibility and pressure to put on them, but they learn from a young age and it doesn't really affect them because they grow so well. And it is a good sport for them to learn, I believe. It's really strong.
Like you take this kid in Alabama in the state championship, he shot a super low score. I mean, a score that anybody that plays golf would be proud of. Okay, he does it this week. He's just a person that did it. Now, what happens next week if he shoots a super low score and gets a name and gets FaceTime on all the networks and then does it again a month later and then gets invited to a pro-am, then gets an invite to an even bigger tournament and keeps shooting low scores? Now he's got a name. Now he's got some prestige. Now he's a star. Now he's a young adult ready to go be thrust on the scene as this super golf prodigy. What happens to his development then? Does he forget everything he learns? Does he get to the next level, or does he just take these invites to just show that he can shoot a little bit?
That's a great question, Damien. It really is. A good example for what can happen is a young kid named Ty Tryon. He was the first young man in history that qualified to get his PGA Tour card at 16 years old. It was an exception at that time to do it because they made a special exemption to let him into Q school, not thinking he would do good, and he goes and gets his card at 16 years old. Well, at this point in time, which is about 5 years later, he's hacking around on the mini tours trying to get his way back because he was at such a high level at 16 years old. He's now probably 19 or 20, and he's just not there. So it can affect him, I guess. I don't know.
Now, I heard you talking earlier about Mr. Compton, the guy from UGA that had to triumph or go through a few things just to excel the way he did or almost succeed. And for it to turn out the way it did, I don't know if that builds him more in character or as a golf player you should pay more attention to, or if you just should throw this guy on the pile of the rest of the golfers that try and almost get there and don't quite make it.
It's such a tough environment because the guys that have been there, I say it's crumbling under pressure is what it is. I mean, he lit it up, and at that level, even the guy that's 150th on the money list is every bit as good as the guy that's number 10. At that level, they are so good, there's not a big difference between them. It's just the day that they're on. It might be putting, it might be driving, it could be a lot of things, but everybody at that level, they can all win and they're all good. He probably crumbled under pressure. He had 3 days on the leaderboard. It's okay, I got interviews, I'm up here, I'm doing good. He woke up Sunday morning and all of a sudden he goes, whoa, what am I gonna do now? I'm the leader of this first year tournament with everybody in the world here. I don't know what to do. So you think too much. You can't overanalyze, and that's probably what he did. He probably thought too much, tried to protect what he was doing, and before you know it, it was out of hand and he just disappeared, and it just happens. Until they win, that's what's gonna happen.
Well, Daryl, what does the golf fan look forward to this week coming up in the world of golf?
Actually, 2 weeks from now is what you're looking forward to. You got the PGA Championship. It comes up. It's in Whistling Straits, Wisconsin. The Kohler, I believe it's the Fawcett people, Kohler. They're the big sponsor of this one because that's their course. But that would be something to look at because you've got some few people that are riding some highs right now that have played good all year, and they're kind of getting in their groove. And the way those guys work, they tone themselves up 3 or 4 weeks in advance for what they're doing. They're not just playing today to get a check and play good. They're actually gearing themselves up for what they're facing in 2 or 3 weeks. So the PGA is going to be something to look good for. You got Retief Goosen, Ernie Els, Matt Kuchar, names that you don't recognize that are going to be on the top of the leaderboard and could possibly win. And my long shot dark horse would be Kenny Perry. He's 50 years old. He's still playing with the young bucks. He's keeping up with them. He's won 6 tournaments in the last 2 years in his late 40s, and he's been kind of idle this year, kind of taking it easy, and I'd look to see good things out of him.
There it is, Daryl Heavey, jacked up about golf. Hey, we coming back with more to talk about in the world of sports. Jack Sports TV is brought to you by Vegas Showgirls, where you can bring in your ticket stub and have a good time.